All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here and thanks for being patient as we allow a few additional minutes for folks to trickle into the room. Excited to have you here today. We're going to be learning a little bit more about Baylor's chemistry and biochemistry departments. So I know that you will get all your questions answered. And so we have with us today Dr. McGrath, and he's going to be leading us through our presentation. And then we have some of our student ambassadors here as well. So thank you guys for being here, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. McGrath.
All right, thank you, Walker. So welcome from me also, welcome from Baylor's Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. So a little bit about me to get us started with. That's me there. I'm Dr. Tom McGrath. I'm a senior lecturer and also our undergraduate program director. What that means in practice is probably a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of answering emails and so on. But I also get involved in a lot of events like this, outreach events and recruiting events. And accompanying me on the call here, as Walker said, some of our student ambassadors. I'm going to say a little bit more about who they are and what they do right at the end of my presentation here. So if you want to sometime later in the future, send me an email. If you get other questions that we don't get answered today, then my email is here on the screen, and also got it at the end of the presentation. So in terms of why one might want to study chemistry or biochemistry as a major, and what I'm going to say applies pretty much equally, more or less, to both chemistry or biochemistry as a major. One of the things that maybe scares some people away from these majors, but really shouldn't, is there's a little bit of math involved. It's not horrendous, nightmare, pull your hair out sort of math, unless you really want to go into particular areas. In general, one does have to be certainly good at math, good with numbers. There's lots of calculations involved in chemistry. But when you're thinking down the road, looking at employment or those sorts of things, being good with numbers is a very useful transferable skill that you can use in a wide range of jobs and other things, not necessarily using chemistry, but certainly being good with numbers is something you can use in many walks of life. So it's first of all one thing that having a chemistry or biochemistry major says about you. Maybe one of the things that I like best about chemistry or biochemistry is not so much that you have to memorize some stuff. That's unavoidable in pretty much anything. So there are certain things you need to just know. But one of the great things about these majors is a lot of the times you would learn a few simple rules, and then you're able to apply them to a whole bunch of different situations. That's one of the beauties about chemistry, is you don't need to have seen absolutely every little thing and memorized what it is. That if you see something new, but you know how it works because you know these kind of basic rules, then that's a really, really useful skill to gain and to use in, again, many walks of life. So, for example, when you're trying to understand how DNA works to make proteins or stuff like that, a lot of the chemistry is stuff you learn in freshman year, even though you're in way advanced biochemistry classes. All you're doing is taking those simple rules and applying them to more and more complicated situations. And, that's something that applies not just in biochemistry, but in all areas of chemistry, that you learn simple rules and then you just keep building up and learning how it works in more complicated situations. And then when you do see something you've never seen before, it's not so shocking and it's not something you can't deal with. So that's a life skill for sure. Of course, since these are lab sciences, physical sciences, you do need to gain lab skills. You will be required to take labs, of course, as chemistry or biochemistry majors. But again, that sort of hands-on, being able to do stuff like that is something that is sought after by employers for sure. And then one of the other things about these majors is, I've said there you're a self-starter. Maybe what I mean by that is you've actually bothered to think about maybe what your major is, rather than just maybe going with a default major that you didn't know what else to do. It does set you apart a little bit from the herd, that you are a little bit more unique if you're a chemistry or biochemistry major than perhaps some other majors. So that again is one of the big benefits. So All these things and many other things mean that when one looks at the sort of employment statistics for graduates, I haven't checked it recently, but consistently the employment statistics for chemistry or biochemistry majors is several percentage points higher than the national average. So, that's saying something about these skills that one learns and develops in the course of gaining one of these majors. In terms of what we actually offer within our department, so we service many other majors. So there are lots of other degrees or other majors where one would need to take chemistry. So, engineering majors need some chemistry. Anyone doing any kind of biology needs a little bit of chemistry, environmental science, geography, geology. Many of these other majors need to know at least a little bit of chemistry. Some of them need to know a lot of chemistry. So we do see a lot of majors in other departments passing through our lectures. In terms of the degrees that we offer, we have kind of 6 different bachelor's degrees. There are various, as you can see there's 4 different incarnations of a bachelor's degree in chemistry. So there's a Bachelor of Arts, and then 3 different Bachelor of Science degrees. And those vary in terms really of just exactly what chemistry classes one is required to take. And then our biochemistry degrees, it's a little bit simpler. We have a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. In addition to that, we do have what are called secondary majors in chemistry and biochemistry. There's also a minor in chemistry and biochemistry, and many students that are, say, biology majors or some other majors do end up minoring in chemistry or biochemistry. And then we also offer a joint degree with the School of Education where one earns a bachelor's degree in our department simultaneously with a master's in teaching from the School of Education. I'm going to say a little bit more about the joint degrees in a few minutes. The point of the secondary majors, I should have said, is those are for students who are majoring maybe in completely different schools within the university. So a business major doesn't get a BS or a BA, they get a totally different degree. So rather than having to repeat 2 entire degrees, one would maybe be a business major of some description and then a secondary major in chemistry or biochemistry. So one gets to, in effect, double major without, like I say, having to repeat 2 whole degrees just to get that double major. The other thing I should point out is our ACS certified Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. So those differ from our, so what we call concentration option, which I'll say more about in a second. The ACS certified degrees are certified by the American Chemical Society, which is our professional organization. And being ACS certified, and our department being ACS certified, essentially says that we're good enough to have that certification. So what that means is our faculty are good enough, they are sufficiently well educated, well trained, well experienced. Our facilities, our instrumentation, our labs, whether it's research labs or teaching labs, all are of a sufficiently high standard to have the ACS certification. But then the ACS certified degrees are therefore nationally recognized as being at that particularly high level. So when one had an ACS certified degree and went off to graduate school at some other institution, that institution would know, hey, you've got this degree that's at a particular level. And the ACS certified degrees also require you to take particular proportions of all the various subdisciplines within chemistry, rather than maybe just focusing on one that you were particularly interested. So the ACS certified degree also says that you've covered all of chemistry as part of your undergraduate degree. So then our BS in chemistry with what we call a concentration option is kind of the opposite in that sense, that you get to just concentrate on one area more than some of the other subdisciplines within chemistry. So if you were particularly interested in organic synthesis or something like that, you could maybe spend more time on that and less time on something that wasn't, geared towards your future career plan. It's not that we have different sections of our chemistry classes for ACS certified versus non-ACS certified majors. They're just required to take different chemistry classes in different proportions. So then let me show you what our department looks like in terms of our undergraduates. This is a fairly recent snapshot of our majors, and it varies obviously from time to time, but typically at any point in time we have around 500 majors total, spread across freshman year through senior year. And the division there is usually something around about a quarter chemistry majors and 3/4 biochemistry majors. And there are various good reasons for that. One of them for sure I will talk about in a second. And then you can see also that the division between Bachelor of Science versus Bachelor of Arts is much more heavily favoring the BS degree for both chemistry and biochemistry degree. It's typically about 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. Then at the bottom there, I've also mentioned something else that's important to us, is that our students, all of our majors, are required to be advised every single semester before you can register for classes for the next semester. And this is all done by professional advisors. So they're, kind of like your high school counselor. Those advisors meet with the students, kind of make sure you're taking the right courses in the right order, not forgetting to take any prerequisites for upcoming courses, and really just to make sure that you are staying on the straight and narrow and not spinning your wheels, taking courses you don't need that are going to delay your graduation. Just making sure that students are being happy and successful and progressing towards graduation and not getting frustrated by accidentally taking the wrong course or something like that. So that's a big thing, that we want to make sure our majors are happy. And if you're happy, you can be successful, of course. I would also add that myself, as well as quite a few of my colleagues, have also served as, in effect, academic advisors back in the day before we had this more sort of centralized advising service with professional advisors doing it. So for that reason, me and several of my colleagues do know a whole lot of the details of what students need to take, what courses they need to take in particular order. So all of those same sorts of questions I can answer, and I will very often have students coming to see me or some of my colleagues, just asking for a second opinion. And that's again something I love to do. That it's a good excuse to get to know students a whole lot better and in a totally different environment than when you have them in your class and they're worried about what grade they're going to make, when's the next test, and that sort of thing. So we're real big on that, making sure our students are successful and happy and progressing in the right direction towards graduation. So there's those things, and there's some other things we do to, of course, help with that. Then I also wanted to show you a different kind of breakdown of our majors. So when I took this snapshot and it came to around 500, I pulled out the various pre-health indications for those majors. And you can see there, we usually have quite a few majors that are intending going into various health professions. Dentistry is a big one. Pharmacy, of course, is a big one here. And of course, it makes sense in terms of there's a lot of chemistry involved going into pharmacy. But you can see that doesn't cover, of course, anywhere near all of our majors. So if I add in the biggest group, which would be our pre-medical students, you can see down there, in general, and this is all the time across all of our various majors, more than half of our majors are intending to go to medical school. And there are good reasons for that. Partly, I think that, biochemistry in particular is excellent preparation for the sorts of courses one would take in medical school and also in all of these other healthcare professional schools. There is very good overlap, excuse me, in terms of the courses one is required to take for, say, chemistry or biochemistry major, and then the courses one is required to take for the sort of professional preparation that you're supposed to have taken before you apply medical school. So because there is that really good overlap between those two kind of competing sets of requirements, a lot of students favor the biochemistry major because it does cover both bases and you're not scrambling to get everything covered within the 4 years. I know I've talked to many students that are in different majors where there's much less overlap between their major requirements and their pre-professional requirements, and it's really much more difficult. There's a heavy course load, maybe summer classes required in order just to be able to fit everything in within those 4 years to complete the degree and complete the professional preparation. So that, I think, is certainly one of the big reasons why we have so many of our majors are pre-med, but also many of these other contending healthcare professions. I did say that I would talk a little bit more about our various joint degrees that we offer in collaboration with the School of Teaching. So more specifically, these joint degrees are bachelor's degrees in either chemistry or biochemistry, and that could be a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. Could be in chemistry, could be in biochemistry, and then the master's component is a Master of Arts in Teaching, which ultimately results in teaching certification for, teaching science, teaching chemistry specifically, but it could be in other sciences also at the high school level. And the way this works is essentially there's quite a bit of overlap towards the end of the bachelor's degree and beginning of the master's degree. So the master's in teaching, of course, the teaching certification requires a student to have taken some advanced material in a particular science class. And of course, the advanced chemistry classes that one is taking for the bachelor's degree could count towards that advanced material that's required for the master's degree. And then some of the teaching and other education electives that are required for the master's degree can count as electives as part of the undergraduate degree. So there's a bit of overlap there in the latter parts of the undergraduate degree. And then a student in the 5th year, having completed all the requirements for the bachelor's degree, would be doing all of the other requirements for the master's degree. The teaching in school was all of the practice and placements and those sorts of things. And ultimately, at the end of 5 years, student graduates with both degrees at the same time. So the bachelor's in chemistry or biochemistry and the Master of Arts in Teaching. And that would, of course, include the teaching certification, and you get all of that as an undergraduate, so you don't have to pay graduate tuition. And I hear that some of the online certification for teaching that one can find is a little bit sketchy. So, doing it through Baylor is also a good idea in that sense. In terms of my colleagues, how big our department is, we have, I think I checked this morning, we have currently 31 faculty. I know we have a couple that are maybe heading towards retirement. We have 3 or 4, I think, that are, we're in the process of hiring also, but we generally have 30 or so faculty, as well as 3 lab coordinators that run many of our labs, and we're expanding that also. But all of our faculty have a PhD in chemistry or biochemistry or something related. And all of our faculty teach undergraduate classes. So I exclusively teach. I teach exclusively. I also, as I said, do all of the bureaucracy associated with my position. And I have many colleagues who are very, very focused on teaching, love teaching as I do. Whereas I also have colleagues who are more focused on research, but they still teach undergraduate classes. So I teach, 4 different courses every semester. Some of my more research-focused colleagues might be only teaching 1 or 2 courses per year, but they're also highly active in research. And, we have people who, do world-class research who also teach freshman chemistry. And the beauty of that is students in those classes get exposed to and can interact with world-class research faculty. And then that leads on to opportunities like being able to get to work doing undergraduate research in one of these labs. So many of my colleagues are highly active in research. There's been a big push at Baylor towards research lately, as you may have heard. And I have known undergraduates to get involved in research, almost from day one as freshmen. Maybe not everyone quite that soon, but many, many students are pursuing undergraduate research. You can get course credit for it. And you are interacting with, these really high-level research groups, many of them collaborating with other groups around the country, some of them around the world, doing some really fantastic stuff. And I can think of students from the past who have started off freshman year doing research and done it all 4 years and end up, by the time they're juniors or seniors, they're presenting their own work at conferences, journals, which is fantastic achievement for an undergraduate. And certainly I would also say that we have many students working in our labs. Some of them, stay over the summer, do research. And I've certainly never known any students to be looking for a place in a lab and not been able to find one. So we'd certainly try and accommodate everyone somewhere. Maybe it's not always your first choice, but there is a wide range of students doing all kinds of stuff from, cancer research to synthesizing, pharmaceuticals to zapping molecules with lasers, looking at atmospheric chemistry, all kinds of different things. And, that is something potentially you in the future could be getting involved in. Maybe the last thing I wanted to touch on just briefly are our student ambassadors. So I have 5 student ambassadors that work with me at the moment, and those are chosen from among our best majors. They're supposed to be shining examples of these are what a really good, successful chemistry or biochemistry major should look like. The first 4 of them there are joining us on the call here. In terms of what they do, a whole ton of stuff, apart from being present on recruitment visits like this, they also work with our current majors on a whole variety of different things. So they may help with tutoring, they may help our students get hooked up with research opportunities, or maybe just give them advice on, hey, which professor should I take for organic chemistry? Do you think it's a good idea to take that over the summer, or should I wait and take it in the fall? And I want to take physics and genetics and something else all at the same time. Is that a really nightmare course load, or should I maybe spread it out a little bit? So, some of them are juniors or seniors. Some of our ambassadors are juniors or seniors, and they've kind of been through that and they know how that works. And is that a nightmare? Is that a heavy course load or not? And, they can, in some ways, give students better advice than I can from that perspective, since I've not been through Baylor undergraduate. One of the other things our student ambassadors help out with is we have a Canvas page for our majors. So Canvas is our learning management system. If you've used something like Blackboard or Moodle or something like that, then it's a very similar sort of thing. And on our Canvas page for majors, we post things like job opportunities and internship opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and our students help get our other majors hooked up with those sorts of opportunities, which is a great benefit for all of us. They do also help with outreach events, recruitment events like this. They also run our social media. So up there, top right of this slide, you can go follow them, follow us, our department, Baylor Chemistry and Biochemistry, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go and sign up for all 3. And then also I wanted to talk just briefly about the picture here, which is one of my colleagues during a campus visit. This was homecoming, and that little girl was one of our alumnus's daughter, who was 8 years old and definitely wanted to be a chemistry major. And she had the whole tour there from my colleague, Dr. George, saw around some of the labs, left, went home with chemistry book from my office, actually. So she had a great time. But these are the sorts of things we're involved in our department. Let me just finish up here by saying thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, stick them in the chat or email me there, or get in touch on our social media with our student ambassadors. So thank you.
Again, as Dr. McGrath said, thank you so much for being here today. We've given various ways to reach out to the biochemistry and chemistry departments here at Baylor to continue to learn a little bit more. For those of you that are interested, post our event, we will have the ability for you to re-see this PowerPoint, and so you can re-review it as well after the session in a few days. So thank you very much for being here today. We really, really do appreciate it. And for those of you who spoke on behalf of Baylor, thank you again for being great representatives for the university, engaging with our prospective students. So thank you guys so much, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you.